Good morning, everyone. My name is Mrs. Jaglowski. I understand that you have a final project that may require resources from the internet. Mrs. Deer wants you to understand that not everything that you find on the internet is free to use. So today we're going to talk about something very important. We're going to discuss copyright, and having an understanding about copyright will help you know what internet resources, such as videos, images, music, and any other content you find on the internet is okay to freely use. Because again, just because you find it on the internet does not mean it is free for you to use for your disposal. This ensures that you're being legally responsible, respectful of the original owners, and free to be creative in acceptable and fun ways. So we're going to get started by going through this PowerPoint, A Student's Guide to Understanding Copyright. To understand how to use copyright appropriately, we need to understand what it is. Copyright refers to the legal right to an original work. Copyright protects a creator's original work as soon as the author or the creator fixes the work in a tangible form of expression. This means that the content, whatever is created, must be written down or recorded in some way. It cannot be just an idea that you verbally say to a teacher or a friend or any other person. It needs to be fixed in a tangible form of expression. Unless otherwise stated, everything found on the internet is protected by copyright laws. The Copyright Act of 1976 is the basis of copyright law, was implemented on January 1st, 1978. And it states that the creator automatically owns the copyright to their product. Creator is allowed to sell rights to publishers or companies or other businesses for their work to be used, but the creator is the automatic owner of the copyright. The owner has the rights to reproduce, share, perform, and alter their work they created. And again, companies and publishers and people can buy rights to use the content created from the owner, but they must seek out permission from the owner before they are allowed to do that. This helps to protect the financial rights of the creator so that people just aren't using their content without the creator getting credit for that work or being paid financially for that work. And the good news is that if you create something original and put it out there in some fixed form, then everyone can be a copyright owner. So copyright material applies to original works created by an author. I bolded the word original because that means that this work cannot be taken, cannot be copied from another person, another platform, or any other medium. It must be an original work. And again, I put this in again that the copyright applies to any work that the creator fixes in a tangible form, because I cannot emphasize enough that the work, the content must be written down or recorded for this copyright to apply. Again, ideas shared verbally are not protected under copyright law. Examples that are protected under copyright include photographs, books, poems, sound recordings, music lyrics, illustrations, software, artwork, among other content. Again, if it's an original piece of content, it's protected under copyright. Software also refers to video games that are created by authors, by content people. Examples not protected under copyright include titles, ideas, facts. So the fact that George Washington is our first president, it's a fact. It's not protected under copyright. You can share that freely. Procedures such as recipes, unless the recipe has an original, creative, unique twist that they seek out for copyright. The recipe of how to make meatloaf is not protected under copyright. And other short phrases, such as the sun shines every day. Copyright does not last forever. I want to point that out. Copyright is protected for the life of the owner plus 70 years after his or her death. Then it goes into the public domain. Work, and that is work that may be used without getting permission from the owner. So after the owner has been deceased for 70 years, that work goes into public domain unless it was bought by another company or another publisher in which the copyright would then transfer. Example examples of public domain include government work, um, where copyright has expired, work that's not written or recorded, and where copyright was not properly done. Those are examples of all public domain. Fair use. So fair use is an exception in a lot of ways to copyright. This allows a person to use copyrighted work without the owner's permission. However, there are guidelines that must be followed when implementing fair use. It's not always black and white or straightforward. Um, Areas that often can fall under the fair use exception are when for educational purposes, for commenting on copyrighted work, having it writing reviews, that sort of thing, news reporting, and research. So for criteria for determining if something is allowable under the fair use criteria, is it educational or is it used for commercial use? What's the nature of the copyrighted work? Is it factual? Because again, facts are not protected under copyright, or is it creative work? How much of the work is being used? It's oftentimes more likely to get approved for to be used under fair use if the whole entire, say, article is not being copied and distributed. And the finances, is the owner going to lose? Is the copyright owner going to lose a significant amount of a significant financial amount if it's used under fair use? Creative Commons is a license owners can obtain that gives options on how others can use a creator's work. And I've personally used Creative Commons through the Library of Congress. They have a plethora of images in particular of what I was using for a project, and it was all Creative Commons. So Creative Commons license gives owners the tools to modify the copyright terms for their work. So the copyright owner can go in and say, "Hey, I want my work to be used for educational purposes or be freely used." However, there are guidelines that need to be implemented if a person chooses to use my work. And there are 6 different Creative Commons licenses, options. I'm sorry, Creative Commons license options creators can choose from. Um, one of those options, one of those options is you cannot alter the work. Another option is you must cite and give credit back to the creator. So things like that. And again, that author gets to choose how that license looks. And so those who choose to use material that have a Creative Commons license must follow the guidelines stated in that license. Copyright infringement, there are consequences for those who don't follow copyright appropriately. It's when this is known as copyright infringement, is when a person uses copyright material without permission, and it's breaking the law due to the Copyright Act of 1976. Copyright infringement can have serious consequences, such as expensive fines, jail time, removal of the work that was used, academic consequences, and personal consequences, such as loss of respect, reputation, or integrity. So, how can we use copyrighted material legally? You can be sure that you are following copyright laws by, first of all, using your own work, being creative in your own way. However, sometimes you do want to use an image or um, copyrighted content. And if you do choose to do that, it's important to reach out to the copyrighted owner or the publisher and ask for permission. And remember, when you're seeking permission, you need to be specific as possible. You need to remember that fees may be applied for your use. Um, and you need to make sure that if you decide not to use this requested material, make this known to the publisher or producer so that you're not charged a fee if you don't actually use it. You need to make sure that you do not share their work. Just because you have permission does not mean that you are able to go and give another person permission to use their work. You can use work in the public domain, use work with the Creative Commons license. And again, Library of Congress is a great resource for that. And follow fair use guidelines and always give credit to the owner, even if you're using copyrighted material and you've paid the fees and you've gotten permission. It's always important and respectful to give credit to the owner by citing your sources. So, in conclusion, and to wrap up, the big ideas of copyright is that the internet really opens our world and makes it easy to find and share information. However, just because material is found on the internet, it does not mean it's illegal to share or use freely. The Copyright Act of 1976 credits creators with a copyright to their original work and states that they are the owner of that original work. Copyright protects creators' original fixed tangible work. Again, that phrase there, tangible work, it needs to be written down or recorded in some form. Permission must be obtained to use copyrighted works. Fair use allows others to use copyrighted material, but there are guidelines that must be followed. Content in the public domain and Creative Commons are free to use. However, it is always good to cite and give credit back to that original author if that knowledge is known. Again, always cite sources and always be respectful of a creator's content. So the Copyright Act of 1976 was implemented to protect the original work of creators. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we understand how to use copyright appropriately and responsibly, and that it's important to respect those creative thoughts and create that creative work that was originally thought of by the original owner. And so now that we know why copyright is so important, it's also cool to know that you can be a copyright owner. And yeah, so go out there, create something fun, use sources responsibly, and create really cool content. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your day.